This is RPGDad,
RPGNate.
and this is our weekly encounters wrap up. This week was week 3 of Hoard of the Dragon Queen,
Yeah.
and I think we both did one. We did one of the same.
Uh,
I did the dragon encounter, and so did you.
yeah, and then did you go to the mill?
I went to the mill,
Yeah.
and
You went to the mill to capture somebody?
well, that was the idea, was to capture somebody, which they didn't do. Even though there were 5 cultists there, they could have captured one of them. They didn't think of that.
Yeah. My group actually thought of that, so they put the one cultist to sleep. I messed up. I thought it was, I read it as there was one cultist and then a guard for each of the party members.
No, there was a cultist and a guard, so it was severely overpowered. And I did play it a little differently than the way it was written.
I think I did it better, though, because I still almost killed my party.
Well, I played it a little differently because I had 15 minutes left when we got to there.
Yeah.
And it really became a matter of I needed to expedite the combat, and they still had a tough time. The only thing was I had 3 Dragonborn that hadn't used their breath weapons yet, and that helped finish it off pretty quick.
Yeah, so you group them up.
Yeah. So go ahead, and why don't you talk about yours and I'll talk about mine.
Well, I actually had to finish off what I had last week, which was the Sally port. So we did that. They thought it out a little bit.
Did somebody have the mending spell?
The one of the characters, the one that was actually our cleric after the wipe. I forget if we talked about that, did we?
Yeah, we talked about your
Yeah.
party wipe.
But the character that had the wipe, or no, the cleric, that was the cleric after the wipe. She wasn't the one that caused it. She rebuilt as a wizard.
And mend is one of the cantrips.
Yeah, so I guess she thought about that and took mend.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's going to be useful in some other place as well.
And that's one thing. From level 1 to 4, if somebody's not happy with their character, not if they die, but if they're not happy, at this point in Adventures League, you can rebuild your character, you keep your XP and your garbage. Even the magic items that you get to keep them, you're rebuilding that character.
I think
It's if you die, your stuff goes with that character.
I think that's kind of good. Because
Well, it lets people experiment.
yeah, and that's kind of the idea of encounters. But we did that, and then they returned back to the keep. I completely misread the Sally port, and originally they approached it from outside, and then I realized that they were supposed to approach it from inside.
It said it could be either. I mean, you mean the group or the enemies?
the group.
Yeah, the group approaches. They're inside, and they go into the room, and then, like somebody explained, the Sally port. It's like the door in Lord of the Rings where they went outside that little door that was a sneaky door. Remember?
Yeah.
And they tossed the
One
dwarves
of
and all
the
that kind of
Indians.
stuff. Yeah, and that's really what the Sally port. It's an escape door. And now I know somebody was screwing up because they were using that Sally port door to get out, which is a really bad idea when you have an invading army and you know they're watching the walls, and this door that's hidden suddenly opens up. It's
Well, it
no
wasn't
longer
very
hidden.
well hidden since they found it before.
Well, it sounds to me, I don't think they found it. It was actually damaged.
Oh.
So it's probably from siege engines and stuff like that.
Oh.
Because it is a siege going on.
But wouldn't they note that the adventurers were really worried about mending that spot?
Well, it was a hole in the wall. You know, you're always going to mend a hole in the wall. You're going to mend a breach.
Yeah.
So it's possible. I mean, they are kobolds, and kobolds are stupid as shit.
Well, and cultists. But anyways, we're getting sidetracked here.
The cultists don't seem like the brightest lights on the tree either.
I think they have a 10 or something. But the party then returned to the mayor, and he sent them up onto the wall to a dragon. At first, they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And he's just like, "See that? We need you to scare it away because you're the most qualified person here." And they kind of looked at him like he was insane, and they went and did it. Now,
See, I handled that a little differently.
my party, we had one person who I think was actually thinking about this stuff, but my party's not the best at tactics, so they've been seeing him shoot in lines, and if they were paying attention to how he was shooting, it was in a straight line, 5 foot by 80 foot.
But here's an issue that I have with that. When you look at the encounter, I mean, the walls are only going to be at most 10 feet wide, right?
Yeah.
And it shoots a 5-foot beam. When you run the encounter, it says, all right, you roll a d4 and a d6, and you have this many that are hurt, dead, and this many that are injured.
Oh no, I didn't do that.
Well, that you're supposed to. And that's what you do the first one to let them know how deadly this guy's burst is. Well, the thing is, it's not a burst, it's a ray. It should only be hitting 2 guys in a line unless he comes in on an angle. The most he can really get is probably 4, unless he went down, straight down the wall, which he can't do because he has to stay 25 feet away from the wall.
Yeah.
So with the angle he comes in on, the most he can do is really hit 2 to 3 guys on the wall. But you have the potential, which when I did it, I rolled and the D6 rolled a 6 and I had a 3, so I had 7 guys drop on the wall, which is more than a 5-foot wide beam could do. So whoever wrote this really was brain damaged.
I ignored that, and I wanted to show them what the beam actually did, so it wasn't people dropping everywhere.
Yeah.
So I just did it like it normally would be, and I figured it's doing at least 33 damage right there.
Well, see, I did it the way it was written, and then as I'm doing it, I'm like, this is really fucking stupid. It's a 5-foot wide line. It can't be hitting all these guys. And, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why would you write something like that?
That's exactly why I ignored that part.
Yeah.
Because it was stupid. So I did it like I figured it should be. I hadn't even read that part. I remember I had read it, but I completely ignored it because I didn't care. I wanted it to be where it was actual stuff happening. The guards were actually dying because they were in the way. And he's shooting in a line. It's every single time it's in a line. And I figured as long as he could angle it correctly, he could get as many guards as he needed that was in one of those lines.
Like I said, he could only get 2 at a time because the wall was a straight wall.
I think the most
there was no curve in the wall, so...
I think the most I got was 4, and that was including one of the characters.
Yeah, and that's somebody you've killed now 2 weeks in a row.
Yes. But,
well, you only killed him 1 week in a row.
Yeah.
Because the player
they're
killed him
sitting there
week.
making signs trying to communicate with him, and I figure nobody else is saying anything, so he swoops in and takes out another group of people. So they weren't thinking much there. And I end up sending a bunch of reinforcements up onto the wall because there was like 2 guards left. And I didn't have that many. I don't think I had 30. In the end, I had around 30.
I grabbed like 30, 35, and I made a big wall with a, I actually made corners and straight lines, and I wiped out all but 3 by the time I got done.
I had a 5 or 6 still standing, but they took out quite a few of them party members. So I figured out how to, and I remember the 25 foot, but it didn't really matter because the range characters, only like 2 or 3 range characters, they would hit him either way.
But this was a pretty weak dragon because the only resistance he had was to lightning, and usually with these things you'll see like resistance to piercing and this and this and this, and he had only 1 resistance, which was lightning, and no immunities.
I think that's actually normal. I think they normally have a couple of resistances, but that's kind of normal.
Yeah, I think they made it weak. They made it weak on purpose because otherwise you would have just wiped the party out. But it was an unusually weak dragon for what I would have expected. I would have expected it to be tougher.
12d10 isn't weak.
Well, the damage isn't weak. I mean, that's a slaughterhouse.
Yeah. But so my one character, he's stupid and he piles a bunch of bodies on himself and tries to act dead. But when he does this, he's right in line with 3 of the other guards. So he doesn't really care if he's there. He may not have seen him. He definitely saw him going under the bodies. That's
Well, he might not have even seen that, but your party member thought that those were insulators, and they weren't.
No. But,
they were conductors.
What he saw was those 3 people in a line, so he takes them out.
And he happens to be in the line behind.
Yeah, and it's just like, make a dex save, 19. Okay, take 33 damage.
I don't think I would have even made him... He couldn't... You shouldn't have let him take a dex save, because if you pile a bunch of bodies on yourself, you can't see it coming, and you just added 600 pounds on top of you, what dexterity do you have left?
I let him think he could actually save himself.
So you fucked with him.
Yes. But now they've seen it happen again. They've seen the line happen. A couple of characters are thinking, maybe we shouldn't line up like that.
Oh, I have a question for you. How many people failed that DC 17 save?
I forgot to use action.
Oh, I used that first. I had everybody saved except for the unluckiest thief in the world. She failed and just started running.
I would have wiped if I did that, though.
No, because they're running away. They're going to run away from the guards. The guards are going to get wiped out. They're running and jumping over the wall going, fuck this, we're out of here.
Yeah. I don't know. I forgot to use... Well, I knew it was there, but I had lucky rolls on the D6.
I wasn't worried at all about that, though, because I figured once they start running, He's only worried about cleaning the guys off that are shooting toothpicks at him.
Yeah. So I do that, and then another round he wipes out more guards, and then he swoops back out, and then 2 characters actually hit him this time. I forget, I had 3 range that could do stuff. And these 2 characters are in a line.
And they got killed.
Yeah, so they get destroyed. So that's another 3 down. But luckily, they did enough, that 25 damage, finally, after several misses. The dragon wasn't even paying attention to them because they were missing so much. So they did actually get rid of him.
Well, see, with my party, I had all these guards set up, and they're way off to the side. The way I brought them into it is, if you remember the governor, what's his name, Nighthill?
Yeah.
He's going to bring them, he brings them up on the parapets to say, okay, you see over there, and he brought them up to explain to them, look over there, that mill, we're afraid it's going to be burned, we'll lose all our food, I need you to go do that. So he gives them that mission, and at that time the dragon starts his attack.
Yeah.
And that's when Nighthill's like, go take care of it. He isn't going to take care of it. He's like half his body's burned, and he's got his arm in a sling, and he's all fucked up. So he isn't fighting any dragon. He's like, go take care of that. And I start off, and the first thing that I did, I rolled the frightening gaze or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And everybody passed except for the thief who ran away, and basically wet her pants and like, I'm going. And she failed like another turn after that, and then the whole group, 3 turns they were doing absolutely nothing. I mean, even if they did hit, it was like 1 damage, and I'm like, that's no threat, the dragon doesn't care.
Yeah.
So I'm just going in and I'm wiping out all the guards that are up on the thing who are no longer frightened by his gaze. I figure he's going to be mad at them.
Yeah.
And just as he comes in for the 4th round, the one person finally rolls, and he rolls a crit. And that's all it required was a crit, because this dragon is not invested in this siege.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'll do it. He's not really interested in doing this.
Yeah. One of my characters actually thought, what the fuck is wrong with this here? Because the dragon, he sees it here, and he figured that was out of place. And then when he leaves after a little bit of damage is done, he figured that was way out of place.
Well, see, one of the characters wanted to do a wisdom check, and they critted on it. And I'm like, you figure he didn't look like he was that invested in it. He was kind of just having fun, frying a bunch of people. And then once he got a little bit injured, he's like, screw this. I don't need this garbage. And he went away.
Yeah.
So he had his fun. He's done.
Yeah, and I doubt any of the people that are commanding him are going to be able to do shit to him.
No, because he'll just 10d12 or 12d10, and they're dead.
Yeah.
Either way, it adds up to the same of death.
Yeah. So that was the first encounter, and then the next one was the mill. And I ambushed them, but they were smart enough to have put on the cultist robes.
My group figured that out too. When they came out the tube, it was hilarious because the worst thief ever. That's now her official nickname at the table, the worst thief ever. She comes out of the tube, and I'm like, all right, who is going to do what? I said, you know there's a chance there could be guards going down the stream, so what do you want to do? And, the half-orc fighter, he's always like, I'll go. And they're like, no, you have disadvantage. One of the thieves should go. And the worst thief ever goes, I'll go. And as she gets out the pipe, I go, okay, go ahead and roll. She rolled a 1. And I'm like, all right, you tripped in the thicket, and you fall right in the stream on your face. And she goes, please tell me there's a fluffy bunny on the bank, and that's please tell me that. I said, okay. To the right, there's a fluffy bunny. And to the left, there's 6 kobolds and 2 cultists. And they're laughing at you.
You made a group of my fluffy bunnies that you make fun of.
Well, this could have been we almost started the Monty Python bunny, because that became the joke at the table, but I didn't do that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That would have been insta-kill.
Yeah, it would have been, kill everybody. That would have been funnier than the dragon.
Yeah, they'd need to go find the holy hand grenade.
Yes.
Yes. Just starting an entirely different quest. It's like, screw this shit. We need to get rid of that little killer bunny.
But they got out of there, and they all rushed out. They killed the cultists and the kobolds, and there were 3 dragonborn in the group. Their figure, well, dragonborn might be hanging out with these people.
Yeah. So
I don't need robes, but we have 2 half-elves here, or an elf and a half-elf, or something like that. Let them put the robes on. And they have masks. All the cultists run around with masks.
Yeah.
So, somebody's like, well, somebody might recognize us. I'm like, you're wearing a freaking mask. The purpose is so that if you go back to a town that you happen to live in, they don't know that you're a cultist. You can take your robes off and go home.
Yeah.
They're not going to recognize you. So they're like, oh, okay. Because first one's like, let's pretend like these three are our prisoners and this kind of stuff. And the other one's like, why? They're dragons and we're dragonborn. We're just mercenaries as far as they're concerned. So they thought it out.
Yeah. My group, they just put the robes on, and then they went off to the mill and they got the ambush, and they talked into getting into better positions, and then they put the one cultist to sleep because they messed up and they killed the rest.
See, what ours did is, because it's so far, you're going to have random encounters all the way over.
Yeah.
So I figured 2 random encounters, but we had 2 people in cultist robes. You only need a very low DC check. If you look at the next section, once you're in the camp, it's like a DC 5. I gave them a DC 10 for this because it's in combat. And they passed it fine. Mm-hmm. So, and they're like, halt, what are you doing here? And they're like, we're going to burn the mill. Roll the 10. Okay. They rolled the 10 at least, and they're like, the people they run into are like, go have fun.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah. So that was pretty much all that night.
Well, my group, when they get to the mill was kind of messed up.
Yeah.
You get there, and I rolled for what's outside. I mean, you had possible groups.
Yeah.
And mine ended up just being 6 kobolds, but I added a little more because 6 kobolds against the group wasn't strong enough. So I added 1 more for the hell of it.
Yeah.
So I gave them 7 kobolds, and
our groups are polar opposites.
And they get there, and they're telling the kobolds, don't do that. We have new orders. And I said, well, one of the kobolds ignores you and gets ready to throw a torch. So somebody shot him and killed him. I mean, the kobolds are 5 hit points. They're just dead.
6.
5.
I think it's 6.
No, they're 5.
Okay.
They're all 5s. So it's just like, if you roll a 2 plus your 3 decks, you're good. And that's pretty much what they were doing. They mowed through them, but then somebody's like, all right, can I roll a check? Because there was a check you needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did the check, you saw that there were fires kind of lit around the place, but it didn't look like they were really trying to burn them down. And that gives you the indication that, and I started describing it, and the one guy's like, it's a trap. Well, I said, do you yell, it's a trap? And he goes, yeah, I yell, it's a trap. At that point, I mean, the way the trap was, you walk in and there are guys up in the rafters and all.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't figure out it's a trap, you're going to walk in, they throw a bunch of javelins at you, they jump down, they start shanking you.
Yeah.
And they wait till you're all in. The way I figure would happen is if somebody's outside and they yell, it's a trap, they're not going to wait. They know that they're in there, so they're going to charge on out.
Yeah.
And that's how it played out, because they're like, oh, damn it, they're not coming in. We're not going to be able to throw the javelins at their heads and kill them, so let's rush out and kill them. And it was a pretty good-sized party with 5. Yeah, I had 5 people, so 5 guards and 5 cultists.
Yeah.
But the problem was they got initiative first, which got them out, but it basically created clumps coming out that door. Yeah. And with 3 dragonborn that had their breath weapons, it's a matter of zoink, zoink, zoink on 3 angles, and right away we were down to like 4 guys left.
Yeah.
Which worked out well, because like I said, this part of the encounter started 15 minutes before it was done.
Yeah.
And wiping a bunch out that way, then it just came down to killing them all, and nobody thought, maybe we should save a cultist, because we are supposed to take somebody back and interrogate them. So now next week I'm going to have to run randoms until they run into a cultist in a group. And my guess is I'm going to keep rolling kobolds, which is fine, because we need to burn some weeks. But this is a complaint that I have with what Wizards has provided for encounters. All right, you have Hoard of the Dragon Queens, the book, which is 8 sections.
Yeah.
You have Hoard of the Dragon Queens, the PDF, which is given to DMs for Wednesdays, which is 3 sections. Now, section 1 has 7 total encounters in it?
Yeah.
Section 2 has really maybe 3 in there. Most of it's role play. And section 3 has, I think, 11. And they say the first section should take 5 to 6 weeks. We have a DM at week 3 who's finished the first section.
Yeah.
I guarantee you the way he runs his table, he'll be done section 2 next week. And then those 11 will be done in 3 to 4 weeks. So he will have another 7 weeks that he has to go. So he'll have to go into the book and run 4, 5, and maybe 6 because he runs it fast. And he'll be that far ahead. It's going to create problems because that'll get his characters to probably level 5 or 6. Because you have milestones in this that you can do, or the XP. I think the Adventures League is a crock of shit.
Yes.
I mean, with what they've done with the encounters where they say you can only hand out 300 experience points for Section 1.
I think the encounters version of this is supposed to take as long as the entire book would take.
Exactly. And there is not 15 to 18 weeks worth of material in that encounters version unless you drag it out. And if you drag it out, that's even more and more and more experience that's getting piled up. I mean, I guarantee you, like at my table, I've given out, I think, close to 200 at this point. And they can only get 300 max in this first section, and you have to freeze them. And if you have a second level character brought in, which they were told at Gen Con and this stuff, you can bring whatever you want in, they can't be getting experience because it's first level characters who get that 300 XP.
Then the problem I've just thought of is, I mean, they're seeing the story develop. They're not going to be able to see it end because they're ending at Section 3. So they're going to just be left with a cliffhanger that's never going to be followed up on.
You know what, I've been telling DMs to drag it out, and as far as I'm concerned, you know what, I'm going to tell them to run with it. Ignore the encounters PDF. I mean, abide by the rules where you're going to use milestones and cap it at whatever the level difference is to go to the next level for that section. That's the max XP you can give out for that section.
Yeah.
But everybody's going to have to go into the book eventually. Everyone is. And this is a big thing. People are sick to death of running first to third characters and starting over again.
I think people would be really happy to see an actual full-fledged campaign run instead of just a half-assed, not really thought-out one.
Yeah.
Such as this.
Well, the thing is, I think and I know that there are people that are like, oh, it's encounters, it's for beginners. We had this discussion earlier today. This is, Wednesday night, 2 hours, is some people's gaming time.
Yeah.
You know, because they have families, they have real lives, and 2 hours on Wednesday is awesome. You can do your gaming and have fun, and, you know, your weekend is taken up. It's like before we were doing all this other crap, it was always you guys had swim meets, hockey, and stuff like that. There was no gaming on the weekends.
No.
It was very rare that we would attend stuff on weekends. We were always there for Wednesdays, and I would try to make it to some of the stuff on weekends if I could. The last year, we've been there more than ever, just because swim meets only happen once a month, as opposed to hockey being at least 2 games a weekend. Yeah. But that's the way most families are. You don't have all weekend to play games. And for a lot of people, Wednesday is their gaming night. And it is really stupid of Wizards to take encounters and say it's just level 1 through 3, you have to keep cycling. I don't know how many people over the years that we lose because they get tired of cycling level 1 to 3. I mean, we had a guy who used to be there all the time. What was his name? Is it Al, the older gentleman that used to play, and now he's gone over because Magic. He plays Magic.
Al?
I forget his name. You know who I'm talking about, the older guy. He sits there and plays Magic the Gathering.
Or not Harvard.
It doesn't matter. They don't know him, so it doesn't really matter. But Howard, yeah, Howard. But he used to...
Talking about random people that you people don't know.
Exactly. Now he's there for Magic. He's there, he plays every Wednesday night in their little mini tournaments, or just comes in and plays, and he's always there at the tournaments on the weekends, because that's a game that he can evolve his deck and keep playing.
Yeah. And every game is going to be different.
And he's not committed to huge amounts of time most of the time.
Yeah.
So, but he got tired of the 1 to 3 stuff. And that's what a lot of people, and we lose people, and it's really stupid because even the people that come for 1 or 2 seasons, they're eventually going to buy a handbook. They're going to buy minis. They buy all this paraphernalia from Wizards, and then they're like, fuck this, we're not playing. Wizards needs to do something to accommodate both types of people on Wednesday nights.
I think there are multiple solutions to this. Either they can do it, or stores can just say fuck it, and as the higher level adventures come out, because this adventure, it's going to go 1 to whatever, and then It's going to be like back and forth.
Hoard of the Dragon Queen, if you play the book, goes from 1 to 8.
Yeah, so you'll be at 8th level, and if we do run the entire book, they'll be at 8th level. And then if this is like the H1, E1 through E2, and or whatever the fuck they were, it was like H1 to H3, and then to P, and then to E, where it went from 1 to 30.
Yeah,
you could definitely do that. It would definitely be possible to run something where you went from 1 to 8.
You could have a continuing campaign for your Wednesday players. It would be slow running as it got to higher level, but people would be able to sit down, have a continuous table, have fun, and run their characters up and see what happens.
Well, as I said earlier, when I went on a rant and realized I hated 5th edition a lot more than I thought I did.
Well, they didn't hear the rant.
Yeah. It was basically every single character is the exact same, other than a few features that really don't make them different from each other.
Well, you see, I had said that a long time ago when it came down to my bitching about basically giving the monks flurry of blows to everybody when they start getting all the extra attacks. I mean, and that was because people whine about, oh, this character's too overpowered, and they start crying balance. And it comes back to the designers listening to people they shouldn't, instead of designing a game with characters that are balanced.
Yeah.
In reality, balanced, where magic users control areas, clerics heal, this kind of stuff, instead of listening to the whiny gussies who all want to do equal damage.
Yeah. I think if you had a table full of, like, all the melee classes, right? Melee or even ranged, like a ranger. You could go an entire season if you'd never asked anybody and think that they were all the same class.
Yes, you could.
Because what's the difference between that paladin and that fighter other than the paladin has a few spells?
Yeah, it's a few weak heals and some spells.
Or the barbarian and, I don't know, the cleric, maybe. Because the cleric's still going to go up, the barbarian's still going to go up. They're both going to go up into melee combat. And then the rogue, the thing that's going to set him apart is his backstab, and then it's his cunning action.
Yeah.
And then the wizard, sorcerer, and warlock, you're not going to know the difference between them.
The only one you'll be able to know the difference is the monk, because he's so fucking weak with his D4 of damage, because the little jagoffs had to whine and whine and whine that he was too powerful, and they had to make him into a useless character.
Yeah. Actually, you could think that he was a fighter using a quarterstaff and using the double attack, because you can use something and get a D6 and then get a D4.
And that's still pretty fucking weak.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they really fucked D&D up going into 5th edition.
D&D was okay, but every time I read an article that was Mike Merle's vision of this character or that character, it was like, oh my god, this guy's going to fuck another class over.
Yes.
And, you know, this is the guy that got his job by being low man on the totem pole. You know, 4 or 5 guys that were in charge of 4E ahead of him each got fired in succession, and he's the guy that survived when they decided to come out with 5E, and he was the worst of the group. You know, you lost your good guys like Monty Cook, the other guy that went to go with Monty, who was friends with him since childhood. I mean, these are skilled, awesome freaking game developers. They made the Cypher system and everything for the new games that they came out with that are actually brilliant. A whole new type of gaming system, and that's what they could have done with D&D if they kept guys who were brilliant designers at Wizards. Instead, they kept the lowest common denominator and fucked it up.
Yeah. I hate it that now all the spellcasting classes, you're just going to see that and you're going to be like, are you a wizard or a sorcerer or what? I don't fully understand.
Because you're all the same.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm a sorcerer. Okay.
Well, I have to roll for my wild magic. Oh, you're a sorcerer. Oh, but I still do the same spell as everybody else. I mean, it's bullshit. It's the biggest pile of bullshit I've seen.
You know, in 4th, wizard, they had a couple of spells that were that crossed over, wizard and sorcerer, but it was very rare to actually find one of those.
Yeah.
I think they might have had fireball on each side.
Here, there's a ton that crosses over. There's nothing to differentiate.
I think the warlock is the only one with a semi-unique spell list. And that's because all his spells need to be nerfed, because his spells are encounters, even though he gets 1. And then he gets 5 at max level. And it's just stupid.
Well, like I said, it's a matter of the talent left the house. And this is what we were left with.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm sure there are going to be people that disagree, but I'm sorry, the talent did leave the house. I mean, Monty Cook was an absolutely awesome fucking developer. Yeah, I forget the guy's name. My brain is just locked up, but he was an awesome developer when it came to stuff. Some of the good stuff that came out in 4E, he was responsible for.
I know you played first edition, but so was there something that you could tell a difference between each of the class when they went into combat? Like you see him start combat, and you're like,
Oh,
oh,
in first
you're a
edition,
monk.
I mean, it was pretty obvious. The monk would go in, and you were lucky to survive to get higher level, and then you were god if you did.
Well, no, when they started attacking, was there something to tell a difference?
Of course there was. I mean, you had to play each class a lot differently between the way AC worked, the way damage worked. Your fighters were damage dealers. Your paladins were kind of damage dealers, but then you had your rangers who had to be a little more stealthy, and they were strictly range characters. They weren't like you have multiple rangers now.
Yeah.
But
Well, look, ranger, range.
and you could tell the characters apart. The mage was the funniest one because he would blow his 2 spells and then he'd just run away because he was like
Well,
last
then
cannon.
he uses crossbow.
Well, if he was smart enough to buy one, most of them didn't have one, and if they did, it would shoot every other round because you had to spend a round loading it. So
Could you use a bow?
no.
No.
And so I mean, wizards were funny. Okay, magic missile, I'm done, and they run away.
Yeah.
And then the thief would do what they did and hope they didn't die because they were so soft, and the monk was soft and he would hope he didn't die because he was pretty weak, and your fighters would do their thing. And the cleric, you hopefully had one, which I'm shocked in our parties how many groups have no clerics. I mean, it's bad party design.
But, I think a lot of the people have realized, wow, you have a cleric. Oh, you took a hit, you're almost dead, here's a heal. Oh, you took a hit, you're almost dead, here's a heal. Oh, you took a hit, you're almost dead. I'm out of heals, sorry, you're going to die.
Well, see, that's another design flaw that they did. When they had Spare the Dying, where it got you back to 1 hit point, that was effective.
Yeah.
Now Spare the Dying gets you to 0 hit points, so you're still unconscious.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they would have kept Spare the Dying with 1 hit point as a cantrip, that would have been fine. But now you've got to drag an unconscious body around, especially if you're in a dungeon crawl or something like that, because somebody was too stupid to
Yeah, you got to
give
drag
it
the
a hit point.
unconscious body, hide, and hope that they don't find you while you're trying to take a short rest so that he can heal.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's more shit game design.
Yeah. I know 4th edition, you had 2 heals, but you had 2 heals in Encounter, which was a lot different than now.
Yeah. Well, that's. I mean, we've talked about what's wrong with Vancian Magic. Vancian Magic is a big pile of bullshit.
Yeah.
Things should refresh after your short rest.
The very first iteration of Spare the Dying, that was the best because it wasn't just. I think it was actually called something else other than Spare the Dying. It was a very basic heal, and you could heal them up to like 3 hit points. And somehow that was viewed as overpowered, and it was nerfed.
Well, again, they listen to the wrong people, and the wrong people are writing the rules. The game, I mean, we're going to play it because this is what we have.
Yes.
We're committed to running the stuff, but I am free to complain and say what's wrong as much as I want, and if people don't like it, then tough fucking shit. There's a lot wrong with this. There's a lot that I consider errata that needs to be taken out and corrected, like the Spare the Dying being a 0 hit point versus 1. That is dumb as shit. The fact that they took the 5-minute rest and turned it into a 1-hour rest is dumb as shit.
Was it 5 minutes or was it 15?
It was 5 before.
Oh, yeah. It was 5, and then I think they bumped it up a little bit to 15, and then they just went completely batshit crazy and put it in an hour.
I mean, here's the thing. At first level, that long rest is huge.
Yeah.
It's not going to overpower anybody getting 1 spell back, but it might keep a party member alive getting 1 spell back.
I mean, back when I swim, we'll have a big set, and we could go like a mile, right? And you get out of the pool, you wait 5 minutes, you can go that mile again. Because 5 minutes is what it takes if you're in shape, and all these characters are way in shape.
Yeah, we're not talking a bunch of fat bastards who never do anything. These guys
these guys are even more in shape than me.
Yeah.
And, that 5 minutes is more than enough for them to recover enough energy to go on and fight again. And
these guys are like freaking combat marines. That's what they are.
Yeah. Well, level 1, they're more like trainees.
Sure.
They're really fit trainees.
They're just
trainees.
off Paris Island.
Yeah. At level 20, they're the super elite.
They're the colonel that runs the 5-mile run backwards.
Yes. They probably could. They couldn't anymore, but they used to be able to.
But you know, it's there are a lot of issues with what's happened, and you know, it's like there's some packages were more perfect than others.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to 128 rules last year, those were close to perfect.
Taking an hour rest is also going to be something that's not going to be good because your muscles are going to start stiffening.
Well, they don't think in lines of that because most of these guys don't work out or do anything physical.
Yeah.
The reality is a 5-minute break is enough. It's like if you work out with weights.
Yeah.
If you're doing rest pauses, you can wait 30 seconds and you're ready, rock and roll again. And
you want to keep that blood flowing and still be ready.
Exactly.
But you want to have enough rest that you're able to continue on.
You don't want to sit down for an hour and rest because you're not going to be ready to get back up. You're going to be sore, tired, and everything else.
Yes.
And
that's what the extended rest is for. Rest there, the soreness fades a little bit.
But see, that was something I liked with 4th edition. It was more of the idea of a mana pool, and it refreshes after that 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's really where they screwed up, was putting Vancian magic back in. Because, I mean, you can sit there and say, oh, you have to learn to conserve your spells. But like in current encounters, where it's basically an 8-hour run, you've got 7 things to do, which each thing considered 1 full hour. You have enough time in that, really, for 1 short rest.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think
and that's bullshit. Nobody can conserve that spells that well.
I think the ultimate way to run spells is to use some kind of mana pool system. Like in GURPS, where you have fatigue points that you use. If you run out of those, you're going to be tired all around. You can't.
And you know how long it takes. This long to get my fatigue points back.
Yeah. And it's not like you're going to get those fatigue points back in combat.
No.
You're going to have to wait after combat, but you're not going to have to wait an hour.
You have to wait long enough, and hopefully nothing happens in the interim.
Yes.
You may only get part of them back, which you'd be partially rested. And that's, you know, yeah, GURPS is laden with rules. I mean, if you lay out all the freaking books that you could possibly have to make the rule system, it's ridiculous. But there's a lot that's likable about it versus what we have in the new version of D&D.
Yeah. And each character is unique.
Yeah, every character is going to be unique. So where you don't have that here, but they gave us this promise of, the basic set would be limited, and then the full rules would be be more creative. It really isn't. They're still cookie cutter characters.
Yeah, and I absolutely hate it because there's nothing to tell each character apart.
Except, like a pally when they get up there and, they have bark or dragon scales or this or that. I mean, whoever thought that shit up should be bitch slapped.
Yeah. It's just, they messed a lot of things up.
There's a lot in here that is just not likable.
And in the end...
But like I said, it is what it is. I was not that fond of 4th edition when we started. I don't think I'll ever be super fond of 5th, but it is what we have to play. Yeah. And that's what we're going to play. And my only care is that the people sitting at the table enjoy what they're doing, which sitting at the table, I'm never going to sit there and bitch about the system.
No. And I don't think anybody's really thought about that. Even though, 30 minutes into combat, they have to ask, oh yeah, what class are you?
Well, the thing is, you sit down, and I don't say anything, but there are players that'll sit there and say, man, there's a lot of holes in this rule system.
Yeah, there are.
After they sit down and read the book, they're like, there are a lot of holes. There's a lot wrong.
Yeah.
And
of our
newer players shouldn't be able to sit there and see the giant fucking holes.
Well, no, I mean the one player that's there early and will sit there and talk with me. He's fairly experienced. He's been through all the play tests. I think he was there through 4th edition, and he sits there and he's like, I've seen a lot of holes, and he starts asking me questions, and it's just like, some of them I couldn't answer because there was an actual hole there. Others were he misinterpreted. And it's just, there shouldn't be that possibility to misinterpret a rule. It should be clear.
There's a lot of vagaries inside the rules.
And the fact that he had to ask me on a rule that should be very simple
tells you that there are too many vagaries.
And even when I'm reading it, it's just like, this is overcomplicated. They could just say something much simpler and get it across that way than going through this complicated thing to get to the exact same point.
I don't think that they really thought it all out. I mean, I mean, it's being picky, but there's so many freaking typos in there.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Well, that's going to be in every book.
No. Back in the day when they were printed, typewritten, you had an editor that would sit there with a red pen, they'd go through and read the fucking book. Now it's all digital, and because the way the brain works, they sit there and read it, and your brain can see 5 letters that are not spelling the word correctly, and it'll put it together. And these people just read through, bam, 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 as quick as they can, and there's no proofreading.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes to quality of the book. Yes, the paper's nice, the pictures are pretty, the colors, the cover's pretty, but there should be no typos when they have had 2 fucking years to write the goddamn rules.
Yes. They actually completely rewrote the rules from the playtest to this, so it's like they were showing us a completely different system throughout the playtest.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they went through.
It wasn't like they refined the rules. It's like, oh, we don't like this. Let's make it as dumb as possible and rewrite the whole thing in 3 months and then print the fucker.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually what they did. They spent 2 years on a rule set refining it.
Probably because Mike Merles thought it was funny because he's a douche.
And then he just completely rewrites it. You know, if they were just going to do that, I don't understand why they wouldn't just do it from the start.
Yeah, don't tease us with semi-decent rule systems and then give us something stupid.
Yeah. The short rest has been stupid since an early playtest. I think
the hour-long rest started 6 months ago.
Yes, but
early playtest we had our 5 minutes.
Yeah,
but whatever. I mean, it is what it is. We have what we have, and I think there's going to come a time when the DMs are just going to have to table rule it and say some of this stuff is fucking stupid, and just say, you're spare the dying, you get 1 hit point. Ignore some of the rules because they're fucking stupid.
Another issue with classes is because so many are similar. There are some that have a slight advantage over the others, like wizards. They have a massive advantage over the other spellcasting classes. Because of the warlock being so stunted with the short rests, if you pick a wizard, you'll have a list of 41 spells at max level, where sorcerers have 15 and wizards have even less.
You mean warlocks?
Or warlocks, whatever. And the spell lists for wizards and sorcerers are the same, but the fact that you have such a massive amount of spells more than the sorcerer, I think that's the biggest issue. And if you say it's because those 15 spells are the ones that are prepared, a wizard can prepare even more than that.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't matter if you can have the entire spell list to pick from, because with those 40-some spells, you can pick the most useful spells out of that spell list. And you can even completely change your spell book if you want to. I believe there is stuff where you can toss it and do it all over again. But
well, your spellbook's your spellbook. I mean, you pick up new spells, you add them into it. And that's a rule that I did not see in there. I mean, it says you're limited to this many spells at level 1, but it says if you find a spell, you can copy it into your spellbook. That doesn't mean that you erase your fucking spell and you're still stuck at that. You just picked up a free spell.
Yeah,
and no. You think what? You don't lose a spell.
No, I think it's like a bonus spell.
Yeah, it is. And
wait, so the limits
don't
if you killed
matter.
Another level 20 wizard, you could end up with 82 spells.
You could pick up his spell book, and you'd have to hide it somewhere, and eventually, start copying the shit down. You'd have all his stuff, and it would be like free spell book.
Yeah,
you wouldn't understand, I guess, but you would have every first level spell at that point. You would have when you got the second, you'd have every second level spell because you got this dude's book.
Yeah,
and there's nothing that stops that from being part of the mechanics. You're only limited when you level up, but it says if you find a spell, you can copy it in. So you find the Encyclopedia Britannica of spells, you have all the fucking spells.
Yeah. So wizards,
they left a hole.
I think that hole has always been there, but that does kind of make sense since it's paper, it's writing, you can look at it and then put it over here.
I know, but it's going to cause issues. It's not well thought out.
There's a lot of issues. That's one of the rules that actually makes sense.
I don't know. I have so many issues with this. I don't know how many rules make sense, but
I don't know unless they wrote it in a language that you don't read, but I think spells have their own language, don't they?
Yeah.
So
that's why you have to be able to interpret it or whatever, however they word it.
Yeah. I guess that's
decipher or decode it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's enough bitching for now. Next week, I'm really thinking that in week 4, a lot of tables are going to be finishing up section 1, and it's supposed to go 5 to 6 weeks. And I'm going to tell the DMs, I'm cool with that. Just move on.
I think you should tell all the DMs is forget before, aim for the 8th section. Let the players
have fun and get the full experience over this 18
See
weeks.
the entire story. Get your $30 worth out of the book.
Exactly. Even though we didn't pay 30 for it.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Because our store is very cool.
Yeah. Other stores are cooler. They give it free.
No, nobody gives them for free. I don't think
Really?
anybody gets those books for free.
I don't know. There might be. Who knows?
They might have a store copy, but nobody gets them for free.
For when they started, I guess.
But
our store was nice, but
no, our store is awesome.
Yeah.
And, we get a lot of stuff as thanks, and
I guess,
and it's all stuff I never asked for.
I think one of the reasons they do it is because with our massive influx of people, we're also driving more business for them.
Well, some of us have been pretty dedicated. I mean, when it comes to Acon and stuff, they're like, can you guys run tables? We're like, sure, we'll take our weekend and we'll run tables for you.
Yeah, it's fun being an Acon.
And it's not like we get to do anything at the con other than sit at the table and eat really bad food when we get to take a break. We do it because we enjoy it. And
I mean, the DMs that win were friends, so I don't know.
Yeah,
get to hang out.
We're all guys that play together on the weekends and stuff too.
Yeah, get to hang out with friends for an entire weekend.
But I never expect anything out of DMing. If we get something out of it, it's a bonus.
Yeah,
I just enjoy doing it. What I don't enjoy though is having a rule set that can really screw players over. And that's why, I have taken it a little more lenient on the table than you have, because I think the rule set and this entire encounter system is stacked against them where they can't get heals and stuff back. I mean, my table's blown their heals.
Yeah. I think we should talk to the DMs, reinstitute the 5-minute short rest, or at least 15. Change a couple.
Well, we'll see. I mean, that's fine for house ruling, but if we're going to play it with this Adventures League garbage, then we have to stick by the rules. They're going to have to conserve their spells, and they're going to have to think. And that's why I was very pleased to see them put robes on and start thinking. We can bluff people instead of just trying to combat our way through.
The one player that you moved over to our table, he thinks
he's an existing. He seems like he's a long-term player, and
he's been driving the party to actually think things out. Well, he has, and he's helped.
You can keep him.
Yeah. The one player that
we're not talking about him. The guy that didn't show up, I don't really care.
No, not him. The one that died twice in a row. He kind of just runs in, doesn't really use tactics. Same with the rest of my table. Well, we've had 3 people die 2 weeks in a row now.
They're having fun, and who knows, maybe it's like that movie where the guy played a bard and he had a stack of 50 bards. Every time he got killed, he pulled another one out, and he got killed, and he pulled another one out.
He really enjoyed bards, apparently.
And, I mean, the guy that got killed 2 weeks in a row, he has a stack of 5 characters. He's going to have to make some more, though, because he's going to keep dying.
Yeah. It's either he really liked bards, or he was doing it to spite his DM because his DM hated bards.
Yeah. But, that's it for today. Next week is week 4, and we'll see what happens. I think we will finish section 1 next week. Pretty sure my table will.
I think mine can. We just have the sanctuary and then the final fight.
So, all the DMs should be there Saturday except for 2. And I'm going to talk to all of them while we're waiting for people to come for expeditions. And I think we will do an expeditions podcast and see how that went.
Yeah.
We are going to have new characters for expeditions because you really can't carry them over.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get the XP and apply it to your character that's running a freaking encounters thing because you can't bring them in at 2nd level if they're not allowed to earn 2nd level during encounters.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it for...
I really don't think these guys that are writing the modules and sell... I mean, you got the guys who are writing encounters, guys that are writing expeditions, and the guys that are writing the press for Adventures League, and none of them are on the same page. I mean, Adventures League guys are saying, you can take the character anywhere and get the experience and blah, 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 blah. Well, when I've got an encounter season that says you get 300 XP and you don't get to go to 2nd level until the end of this thing, you can go to all the other things you want. You're still not going to 2nd level with that fucking character.
No.
You're not. That's what the rules say. It's in black and white. It's done deal. So they're starting with new characters on Saturday.
Yeah. So I think that's it for this podcast. It went really long. Damn, almost 50 minutes.
We were bitching a lot.
Yeah. But if you enjoyed the video, please like, fan, and subscribe, or video.
That is, if you listen for this full time.
Podcast, yeah. And even if you didn't, you should subscribe. And like and favorite.
Even if you don't hear this, you should still subscribe.
If you enjoy video game videos, check out my channel, link in the description.
It's not.
Yes, it is. I'll do it then. I don't know. And I don't know, do you use the website? Because if he uses the website, then there might be blogs there.
I used my website.
Okay, so there will be written stuff. Another link in the description. And, yeah. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.